There are, by official Major League Baseball count, dozens of trophies handed out every single year. Some require you to be the best hitter in the sport for 6 consecutive months. Some require you to not be terrible at one specific skill, while everyone votes based on reputation instead of footage. One of them has been won 3 times in the last 50 years combined, which tells you something about how impossible it actually is. What follows is every meaningful award in professional baseball, explained in order of difficulty, from the one a bad team's bench player can win almost by accident, to the one that requires you to be statistically better than every human being on the planet at 3 different skills simultaneously for an entire season, without getting hurt, traded, or benched. I will not be winning any of these. I want that established up front so nobody gets the wrong idea about who's writing this. Comeback Player of the Year. Criteria: be bad, then be less bad. This award exists to celebrate a player who was either hurt or terrible last year and is now neither hurt nor terrible. That's it. That's the whole bar. You don't need to be the best player in baseball. You need to have been so disappointing in the recent past that simply returning to a normal version of yourself reads as inspirational. In 2021, a guy named Jose Barrios won absolutely nothing, but plenty of pitchers have taken home this award for going from season-ending elbow surgery to merely above average. It's the only major award where the prerequisite is failure. I relate to this one on a personal level. I once got a participation trophy in 3rd grade for showing up to every soccer practice despite scoring 0 goals across an entire season. The Comeback Player of the Year is that trophy, but for adults who get paid 8 figures. Number 2. Rookie of the Year. Criteria: be new and good before the league figures you out. The Jackie Robinson Award, officially 1 per league, voted by writers, given to the best first-year player. The catch is that you only get 1 shot at this. There's no sophomore of the year for the inevitable regression once pitchers stop being confused by you. Aaron Judge won it in 2017 by hitting 52 home runs as a 25-year-old who looked like he was assembled in a lab specifically to hit baseballs over fences. Most winners never sniff that ceiling again, and a noticeable number of past winners are now out of the league entirely, which is the sport's equivalent of a one-hit wonder you forgot existed until a "Where Are They Now" article reminds you. The award rewards being good at something before anyone has had time to scout you properly. I once impressed an entire group of strangers at a karaoke night by nailing the first verse of a song. Then the second verse happened. There is no Rookie of the Year equivalent for surviving the second verse. That's just called having a career. 3. Gold Glove. Criteria: catch the ball, catch it well, catch it on camera. 1 per position per league for the best defender. In theory, this is determined by advanced defensive metrics, range factor, defensive runs saved, the kind of numbers that require a spreadsheet and a small breakdown to fully parse. In practice, for several decades, this award was handed out based largely on reputation and a couple of highlight reel plays that happened to air on national television in September. Rafael Palmeiro won a Gold Glove in 1999 at first base, despite playing only 28 games at the position that entire season. He played the rest of the year as a designated hitter, which is a position with 0 defensive responsibility. He won an award for defense while mostly not playing defense. Baseball let this happen, and then, eventually, quietly fixed the voting formula. The way you quietly delete an embarrassing photo instead of addressing why you posted it. I bring a similar level of defensive reputation to every group sport I've ever played, in that people remember the 1 diving catch I made in 2014 and have conveniently forgotten the 11 balls that went straight through my legs that same summer. 4. Silver Slugger. Criteria: hit regardless of everything else. The offensive counterpart to the Gold Glove, best hitter at each position, 1 per league. Where the Gold Glove occasionally rewards a good reputation, The Silver Slugger purely rewards numbers on a stat sheet, and the voters genuinely do not care if you're a defensive liability who treats ground balls the way most people treat unexpected phone calls. You can lead the league in errors and still take this trophy home as long as your bat makes up for it. It's the award equivalent of being terrible at your job, but bringing in so much revenue that HR is contractually forbidden from saying anything. 5. Manager of the Year. Criteria: win more than your roster should statistically allow. This one isn't about talent on the field, it's about getting more out of less. Managers who win it typically inherited a roster projected for 75 wins and somehow squeezed out 90, largely through a combination of bullpen management, clubhouse psychology, and a stubborn refusal to bunt at the wrong moment. It's the only award on this list where the man receiving it didn't hit, throw, or catch anything all season. He just stood in a dugout, made decisions, and absorbed blame whenever those decisions went sideways. I'd like a version of this award for my personal life. Manager of the Year for getting 4 mediocre roommates to split the electric bill on time for an entire calendar year. Nobody has invented that trophy yet, but the emotional labor is comparable. Number 6. The Mariano, Rivera, and Trevor Hoffman Awards. Criteria: be the best reliever, then watch a Hall of Famer's name follow you everywhere for the rest of your career. Best relief pitcher in each league, named after 2 men who built entire Hall of Fame resumes out of throwing roughly 1 1/3 innings at a time. The job itself is psychologically brutal in a way the rest of baseball doesn't fully replicate. You enter the game in the highest pressure moment possible, with no opportunity to settle in, no second chance if the first batter you face hits one 420 feet, and an entire season's narrative riding on outs that last about 90 seconds. Closers blow saves on national television and then have to show up the very next night and do it again, in front of the same fans who were screaming obscenities at them 18 hours earlier. Mariano Rivera himself blew the save in Game 7 of the 2001 World Series on the biggest stage in the sport, and came back the next season and saved 28 more games like nothing happened. That specific kind of emotional recovery is not a skill I possess. I have, on separate occasions, replayed a single awkward sentence I said in a meeting for several days afterward. 7. Cy Young Award. Criteria: be the single best pitcher in your entire league for an entire season. 1 award, 1 league, no committee splitting it by position, just the best arm in the American League and the best arm in the National League, full stop. Named after a man who won 511 games in an era when pitchers were expected to throw nearly every single day they took the mound, which is a workload that would currently require 3 different surgeons and a malpractice attorney. Modern winners are evaluated on ERA, strikeouts, innings, and a dozen advanced metrics that try to strip out the luck of who happened to be playing shortstop behind them that day. Sandy Koufax won it unanimously 3 times in 4 years before retiring at 30 because his arm had simply had enough, which is either the most disciplined retirement in sports history or the saddest, depending on how you want to look at a man walking away from greatness because his elbow filed a formal grievance. 8. Most Valuable Player. Criteria: be the best player in the sport and the most important player to your team's success simultaneously. 2 things that overlap less often than you'd think. This is where the award gets genuinely controversial every single year, because best and most valuable are not technically the same question, and writers have spent decades arguing about the difference in increasingly elaborate ways. Mike Trout has been statistically the best position player of his entire generation and has finished second in MVP voting multiple times to players whose teams simply made the playoffs, and his didn't. The award has an unwritten "your team needs to matter" clause that has tossed some of the greatest individual seasons in baseball history their rightful hardware. It's the only award on this list where being objectively excellent isn't automatically sufficient. Your supporting cast has to cooperate too. The same way being the most talented member of a band doesn't matter if the rest of the band can't keep a beat. 9. The Triple Crown. Criteria: lead your entire league in batting average, home runs, and RBIs at the same time in the same season with zero other player in either category beating you in any of the three. This is the one that breaks the curve entirely. It requires you to simultaneously be the most disciplined contact hitter in the league, the most powerful, and the most consistently productive with runners on base. Three offensive philosophies that often actively work against each other, because the swing that hits for the highest average is rarely the swing that hits the most home runs. Miguel Cabrera won the Triple Crown in 2012. Before him, the last person to do it was Carl Yastrzemski in 1967, a 45-year gap, an entire generation of baseball played without a single player clearing every bar at once. It has happened 17 times in the more than 150-year history of the sport. 17. There are more active astronauts than there are active Triple Crown winners. I have never led anything in anything simultaneously or otherwise. The closest I've come is once finishing a video game on the hardest difficulty and immediately telling everyone I know about it for several weeks, which is the civilian equivalent of winning the Triple Crown and demanding a parade for it. Nobody gave me a parade. Carl Yastrzemski got a plaque in Cooperstown. There is, in the end, a meaningful difference between being good at something and being the single best human being on Earth at it for 6 straight months. And that difference is the entire reason these 9 trophies exist, gathering dust in 9 different trophy cases, representing 9 different ways of being better than literally everyone else, even for just one impossible season.